It is a rainy afternoon here in Georgia, so I figured I'd spend some time responding to my pen pal letters. This paper pad is from the Paper Studio, which is a brand found at Hobby Lobby. Usually you can find them for around 40% off. They also have stickers and other stationery supplies. This one is a really brightly colored floral pattern. And since it's the end of summer, I figured we could get one more use out of our brightly colored rainbow flower pattern here. If you've never made a paper envelope before, you do not know what you're missing. You will need an envelope scoring board. This brand is called We Are Memory Keepers, and it has a guide on the back for you to show you exactly what size paper you need for the type of envelope you're making. So here we're making an A7 envelope, and we need a 10 by 10 piece of paper. So I am marking my 12 by 12 piece of scrapbook paper, and we're going to trim the edges. I'm just gonna zero the side of the scoring board with the left side of the scrapbook paper here. If you have a regular ruler, that works just fine too. I just can't find my regular ruler. And then we're gonna just cut off the edges here, and we will use those edges for something else in a minute. Here's a 10 by 10 piece of paper. Now you take your scoring board and you find the scale mark for that piece of paper, and you put your bottom left corner at that scale mark. So we needed 4 3/8 inches, and then you take your scoring, I call it a butter knife. It came with the scoring board, but it's a butter knife to me. And you just score your paper. When you score your paper, you're essentially just making X's that have a little divot or will have a little divot. This envelope scoring board from We Are Memory Keepers does come with a punch to make those divots, but I've misplaced mine, so I just usually cut out the corners there. And cutting out the corners allows you to fold the envelope flaps down, and so that you can make it into a 90-degree angle there. Because if you didn't cut it and you just tried to fold the flaps down, you wouldn't actually have corners, if that makes sense. So once you've got all of your corners cut out, you're just going to take the flaps and fold them over. Sometimes I fold them over backwards as well, but as long as you push that down, push the crease down, it'll be completely flat and you won't have to worry about it like bubbling up on you. And one thing I also like to do is to cut off that edge right there or corner. I'm very type A, so some things just bother me. It goes up too high. And then when I fold over the closing flap, I also do the same thing. I cut that corner. If you're not going to put your handmade envelope into a different envelope to actually mail it, I would not suggest using washi tape to seal it, because some brands of washi tape, once it gets wet, either from water or from humidity, it won't be as sticky, and then you leave your envelope susceptible to falling apart, essentially, in the mail. Especially if you're sending things internationally, you don't want things to fall apart like that. And this brand of paper is from a Japanese stationery brand called Kokoyo. I got this from Amazon after one of my late night deep dives on YouTube, watching people use Japanese stationery. And I only use this actually for writing pen pal letters. I do not use this paper for anything else. Not because it was expensive, just because I really like it. I got into writing pen pal letters right before last Christmas, so Christmas 2025. And it actually started by making an envelope. And when I realized I could make an envelope, I was like, well, now I need to write a letter to somebody, but I don't have anybody to write a letter to. So I signed up for this website called Global Pen Friends, and you make an account, put your picture on there, you write a little bit about yourself, and if somebody likes what they read, then they can pay to get your address. So you can pay, I think it's like $10 USD to get 10 addresses. So that's what I did, and I sent out maybe 4 letters to start with. I think altogether I've probably sent somewhere around 20 just on that website since last Christmas. And I've only got 4 back, and I'm actually still waiting on 11 or 12 responses. So my biggest piece of advice is that if you want to get into writing pen pal letters, do not go into it thinking that you will get something back, because most of the time you won't. And I understand that people have the intention when they sign up for those websites to write letters, of writing letters. That's their intention. But then when they get a letter, I guess maybe they didn't think they would get a letter, and then life happens and they just never respond. But I've also been in some Happy Mail groups on Facebook where the vibe is, I just want stuff. I just want free stuff. Or I'm going through a hard time and can you send me some stuff, and I can't send anything back, which is all well and good. I understand people go through hard times and they want Happy Mail to feel better. But I got into the craft actually wanting to write letters. So I sit down and I write letters, and I tell people about my life. I ask them about their hobbies, and I tell them my hobbies. And I just chat the way that you would in an email or a text, I guess. And it gives you a sense of connection to people, even though you don't technically know that person. I think it still provides some sense of connection. So that would be my biggest piece of advice going into it, is don't expect anything back. And then also be super clear about your intentions and what you want from the process with that person in the beginning. Like, if you only want to swap stationery, then say that. Like, different countries have different stationery options that we can't get here in America. So if you found somebody in Britain who has cool stationery and you wanted to swap, say that. Don't just request free things and not send anything back. I always send goodies with my letters, whether that's a sticker, washi tape. Sometimes I send pens. For this one's actually going to Ireland. So I'm sending, I think it was about 6 or 7 stickers that I chose. And this pen pal always sends things back to me as well. Sometimes she sends scrapbook paper, some vellum I've got one time, sticky notes. So you have to make it an equal trade. I always seal my letters with a wax stamp. This is also what makes it feel very 1860s to me. I feel like I'm sitting at my writing desk taking my correspondence. I also love mixing the colors of the wax to give it like kind of a tie-dye effect. I have found that you sometimes need to hold down the paper. The thicker the paper, you will have to hold it down because it naturally wants to flip back up. You'll also want to let it cool for about 10 seconds before you put your stamp on there. This is the stamp that I always use. It has a little bow on it. There are so many different options though. This is just kind of my signature stamp seal. And there you go. Now earlier I mentioned not using washi tape if you're not going to put it in something else. I'm putting this in a poly mailer because I don't want it to get messed up in the postal system because it is traveling internationally. I got these poly mailers from a company called You Pack and Ship, and they're located in Graniteville, South Carolina, but they do ship all over the country. They're the cheapest poly mailers I've found. You get a pack of 25 for like $2.99, which is unheard of because a pack of 25 on Amazon is like $19. And then just tape the poly mailer shut. Even though it does have glue on it, I am so type A that I have to make sure it stays shut so nothing happens to my pen pal's letter. And there you go. So super cute. Those scraps of paper that we put aside earlier are what I use to put the addresses on. You could use a Sharpie on the poly mailer, but we don't want it to smear. And we also want to keep it cute, so you could put some different colored paper on there. One for the to, and then one for the from. If you are mailing internationally, you do want to make sure, actually, if you're mailing domestic, you also want to make sure you have enough postage, but especially if it's going internationally, because it does go through our customs and that country's customs. And you want to make sure you have the correct amount of postage so that it doesn't get held up in either spot. I had a pen pal recently write me from Germany, and she didn't realize that she had to put my apartment number on it and not just the street name. And it got held up for 172 days. So very super important to not only have the correct amount of postage, but to put the address exactly as the person wrote it. Since I've been writing since last Christmas or right before last Christmas, I've sent pen pal letters to Ireland, Germany, France, Switzerland, Poland, Australia, Canada, California, and New York recently. And I know that sounds like a lot, but keep in mind that I've only gotten 4 letters back out of a total maybe 25 that I've sent. So it can add up, especially if you're sending stickers and things in each one. So don't go into it expecting that you'll get something back. But also keep in mind the different laws. If you're sending things to different countries, never, ever, ever send biological material like seeds or flowers or food that country can't import, because some countries have certain imports classified as biological hazards, and you definitely don't want your mail to get held up in their customs because you've accidentally, inadvertently violated one of their laws. And also, don't send personal information about yourself. It's okay to build a relationship and share things with people over time, but don't send personal information to begin with. And that's it. Happy, happy, happy pen paling.